should be like you, Mel?
Ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.
Well, hello, Cherries fans, and welcome back to Up the Cherries in all departments. And of course, this is our match reaction show, Cherry Slaps. Of course, you'd normally see Ollie Hudson sat in the host seat, but still having some family time with the newborn. So I've got the gig tonight. And of course, it wouldn't be Cherry Slaps without our good friend, Mr. Malcolm Chiverton. Malcolm, good evening. How are you feeling? How are you doing after such an epic game last night?
Hey, good evening, Matt. Good everybody who's joining us. Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. I was like, wow. As you well know, yeah, I am a big Cherries fan, but also a football fan. And I'm sorry, I was left absolutely speechless after that game last night. What a treat. What an absolute treat. Forget all tactics, forget about form, forget about everything really. There were just so many good things in it as well as bad. It was just so enjoyable, and to have 10 plus minutes added on at the end. Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Games like that come along once in a blue moon. I'm just so glad that we've lived it and seen it. So yeah, superb stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was definitely an epic, wasn't it? And for the neutral, it must have been a great watch. But for us, obviously, we were emotionally involved as well. But we do have
up and down on it.
We do have a guest with us tonight. We've got a Manchester United guest from the Irish Red Devils podcast, and that is Stephen, who we're bringing to the room now. Hello, Stephen.
Well, how you going, guys? Sorry, it took me a wee bit of time there to get on tonight.
No worries at all. No, thank you for joining us. Yeah, great to have you with us after such a epic game last night. So yeah, we'll start to take a look back at the game now. Stephen's with us, and we'll have a look from both perspectives as well. So if we could just start with the lineups, guys, first of all, and if we could start with United, because I swear there was a bit of a tweak to United's formation last night, Stephen, from what you guys normally play with the 5 at the back system. He went just with that straight sort of 3 at the back last night, didn't he? Was that a bit of a surprise to you?
Yeah, so it had come out. Can you hear me okay on this microphone? Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
It had come out yesterday mid-afternoon that there had been rumours that the players had been working on a 4 at the back system during the week, and that's what was happening. So that was very obvious in the first half. But was obvious. What was also obvious was how they reverted back to the three at the back right at the start of the second half.
Yeah.
And so we were chatting with yourself last night straight after it, and sometimes whenever you're commenting on something straight after a game, you kind of miss some things. But I was watching it back there earlier today, and um, from a United point of view, I question that. Why did we do that? Because honestly, like the report I gave you guys earlier in the week about what you could expect and what not to expect from United, I was pretty much completely wrong, apart from the fact that you don't know what you're going to get. But essentially, I said that we wouldn't attack you in the first 20 minutes and we wouldn't high press you and all that kind of stuff. And that's exactly what we did. And it was brilliant. It was the first time I've seen United do that in a long time. And it was the first time I was enjoying watching what I was watching. So I suppose I asked you the question last night from a Bournemouth perspective, like what happened? Like, because it didn't make sense to United, to us watching it. I was like, what's going on here? When I watched it back, I've got to question the judgment as to why you switched something that's working.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think it took you guys by surprise too, judging on your manager's post-game comments. He seemed to, he wasn't expecting it.
No, he wasn't. We've just got a little bit of technical fault as well. It looks like we've lost Malcolm by the looks of it. He's having some issues this evening with his internet. So I believe Craig will be joining us as well at some point. So we will have a couple of guests. But if we just quickly jump into the chat just before I forget, there's a couple of comments here. Evening, Liam. Great to see you as always, buddy. Up the cherries indeed. Hello, Paul in Oz. Hope you're well. Jamie, I reckon we will win possibly on Saturday, and then we will got our bogey team Brentford next Saturday. Yeah, we'll discuss all that, Jamie, later on. This is all just purely about last night's game. And I think that's about it really that I can see in the comments at the minute. So yeah, it was a bit of a, I mean, just before Craig jumps in, how would you sort of grade that or rate that game? Because I mean, I've done a lot of looking on socials and stuff today, and a lot of people are saying that's possibly up there with one of the most entertaining games in Premier League history. Would you agree with that?
I think as a neutral, I think if you're watching as a neutral, yeah, it would be one of those games that you were like, I really enjoyed watching that. From a United fan point of view, it was just another frustrating night at the office. It's a strange one. There's something about the mentality of our players. I was listening to some of the after game interviews and stuff, and there was an interview of Ahmad, and I'm conscious that English isn't Ahmad's first language, but one of the things he said in it was, he said they were disappointed, because the win would have taken them higher up the table, but a draw is also okay. And I don't like that. I guess to me that's not a Manchester United mentality. Do you know what I mean? Like, listening to ex players on podcasts recently, and Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes are on a really cool new podcast. And they talk a lot of sense and stuff. And he actually talked about like the standards that were set at the club for them. It wasn't like winning wasn't enough. You had to entertain as well. And this was like bred into them from a young age. And I just worry that I don't know if we'll ever see that again at United. So yeah, from someone who's not either a supporter of either fans, yeah, I love the first half. The first half was great. It was really enjoyed. Just gutted about the second and really disappointed in our team. But you guys could have won it, and I wouldn't have said you didn't deserve to win it. You know what I mean? The second half was, both teams, either team could have won it really. So no, definitely from a neutral point of view. But Olivier Giroud is shocking in the. I don't know if you heard him in the Sky Sports studio after. It's absolutely shocking. Yeah. Really, really bad. Like,
yeah, I didn't understand really the guests last night on Monday Night Football, because it was a bit of a strange one. I thought they could have found someone with a bit of a Bournemouth and Man United connection to to be in the studio last night. But Mr. Beasley's in the background, so I'm just going to bring him in.
Hello, Matt. How you doing? Hello, Stephen. How you
How's
doing?
it going?
We've had
Yeah,
some
good,
technical
good.
issues this evening, so I think we've lost Malcolm. I'm not too sure if he's going to be able to make it back. But yes, we were just going to start looking at the lineups, and we were just talking briefly about a bit of a formation change for United.
Yes.
But in terms of personnel for Bournemouth, Craig, what's your views on the lineup? Would you say it's a lineup that you expected, or was there any surprises in there?
I was quite surprised Alex Scott didn't start. That was the big surprise. Of course, Alex Scott did come, on very, very early on, unfortunately, because of Tyler Adams' injury. I was a little bit shocked by that. Jimenez, when I think back to it, makes a lot of sense. Originally, I did think, I don't know about that. But yeah, I think, overall, Iraola has had his hands a little bit tied recently with injuries. Of course, we're hoping Tyler Adams isn't out for very long, and just an unfortunate, injury, that one. Can't put any blame on anything, but it's just one of those that happens. But yeah, it didn't come to me as any surprise apart from Alex Scott being out.
Yeah, and that's the only different. That's the only thing I didn't understand was Scott being out. Malcolm,
Hello again, Malcolm.
Is the internet still going to work, or are we going to lose you again?
German gremlins, I'm afraid.
Well, just very quickly, the lineup for you, it kind of what you expected.
Yeah, I think so. Now that I've got internet back, I can call it up here. Jimenez playing further forward. I like this. I like the idea of that. Good to see Smithy in the right back. Obviously, no great surprise in the back four. I wasn't sure about Cliver, to be honest with you. I wasn't sure if he was going to start, but hey ho, it's all right. How could you leave Alex Scott out? Okay, it is what it is. But yeah, I would say certainly 9 out of the 11 would definitely start for me. But no, it's pretty good.
Clivert had a good play knocking Shaw off the ball.
Yeah,
for one of your goals.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we get on to that.
Yeah.
But no, it's good. Yeah, good start. I mean, I don't know how far you guys have actually spoken, so you'll have to...
We've not got too far, mate, to be fair, because obviously you dropped out. Craig's been trying to jump in. So yeah, we're only kind of at the lineup point anyway, to be fair. So.
Okay,
and I've got to be honest, my vision at this moment in time isn't perfect because I took my contact lenses out because they were feeling a bit uncomfortable, and I put my glasses on, and I thought I better take the glasses off for the show because otherwise they're a little bit. I fell asleep in them, I've broken them, so I'd look a little bit like Mrs. Doubtfire if I wore those. So yeah.
Anywho, back to the football. Stephen, lineup in terms of personnel for you. Is there any other players that you would have started ahead of who started, or what was your opinions on the actual personnel in the lineup?
Well, I like the fact that he went to 4 at the back, and I think that I just wish he'd stuck to it. I was saying to the guys, Craig, before we came on there, that having watched it back, the highlights, extended highlights back there, what I'd noticed was that the first half yesterday, he was playing 4 at the back, and then the start of the second half, he switched it back to the 3. And you've got very young players there in centre defence, and I think it messed with their heads, and if it's very, very obvious that happened. So in regards to the players, everyone was pretty much on the pitch who was available. And yeah, it'll be interesting. Obviously, we're going to lose our whole right side now with the African Cup. I don't know how you are being affected by that, but
we're not.
It was like, I think that was probably our strongest team at the moment that he put out. So no complaints of that. But he had the formation right in the first half, and then he started tinkering about with it, which I'm not happy about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to add to that as well about the African Cup of Nations, of course, Adley is not going with the Morocco team, and of course, Ghana didn't qualify as well. So the African Cup of Nations isn't going to affect us at all, which is, I guess, we're quite lucky in that way.
Yeah.
You know, no doubt Semenyo would have been on the plane. I would have, I'm surprised Adley hasn't been called up for Morocco, but there we go. It's all our benefit, really.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's a question here, which we'll touch on at the end. And Bournemouth fans, do put in the comments your thoughts and opinions on this one. So from a Bournemouth perspective, do you think United are better than you saw last year? So yeah, do pop them into the chat and we will have a look at them at the end of the show. Guys, let's touch on the first half then. Malcolm, starting with yourself, there were some moments obviously in the first half. There was a penalty appeal, I think, against Truffert. At one point, there was the first United goal. The first one that people are talking about with Petrovic. Was Petrovic any fault there, or could our defence have done better? Just give us a bit of a an insight into your opinions on that first half.
Yeah, well, from the get-go, I think United started on the front foot. 5 minutes in, Tyler Adams has to go off, and that really shook everything up in from a Bournemouth perspective, I guess. Certainly not the start we wanted. But United just kept on. I mean, I've seen the last 3 games prior to last night, what United have played. So Wolves away, West Ham at home, Everton at home, and I'm just thinking, this isn't the United I'm used to watching. They were on the front foot, they were at it, they were hungry, they were aggressive. They're just pushing. And I thought, wow, something totally different. And I was a little bit concerned, obviously, when the first goal went in. Could Petrovic have done a bit better? I think so. But having said that, they'd earned that 1-0 lead, United. And up to that point, I thought, well, is it going to be a question of us reacting to that? Will United, like they tend to do, sit back a little bit, a bit more composed, if you like? But I mean, it was 35 minutes, and they were on the button, and I take my hat off to teams that actually want to have a game of football and go at the opposition like they did, because it's so unusual to see United do that. Obviously, they did in the previous game against Wolves, and especially second half. But wow, it was really, really good starting performance from United. Penalty, well, I mean, it happened so quick. When the arms are by the sides, I just think, no, come on, let it go. You don't have to, VAR don't have to come into every single piece of action that happens. You can say, there were other issues in the game where maybe, perhaps cards could have got thrown around a little bit. Got a bit fisty, didn't it? So, but I prefer to concentrate on the football. I just thought, wow, this is unbelievable. But it's a season of goodwill, and United do like to give, as we well know. Interesting enough was that Semenyo changed from the left to the right, and bingo, he gets his goal. You've got a question, was it Mason Mount and Luke Shaw? But there were players there at the back, sort of looking at each other, who's going to do what in the United defence. And I mean, Semenyo just kept going, and beautiful finish. I thought, well, okay, 1-1, that's going to be it for the first half. But it wasn't meant to be, and Can I just say, have we got Onana in disguise in our goal? You know, for that second United goal. Sorry, but you know, that certainly isn't Premier League goalkeeping. So should never have gone in. Hi, Manny. Yeah, I mean, that's my team. I mean, United deserved 2-1 lead. They could have easily have had 3 in that first half. And that wouldn't really have been a disgrace at all. It would have been, you know, good value as I saw the game, you know, and that is as a Bournemouth fan. So, okay.
I think obviously we've only got Stephen still for probably about 10 minutes or so. So let's just get some points from Stephen before Stephen has to jump off. Manny, oh, he's disappeared. Hopefully Manny comes back. Stephen, yeah, we know you've got to go. So let's make the most of the time that we've got with yourself. And Craig and Malcolm Wheeler come back to you two shortly. We can carry on digesting the game after Stephen's had to leave us. But Stephen, what was your initial thoughts of the first half? You know, what did you think of not only Man United's performance, but also what you saw from Bournemouth?
Yeah, well, like I said, I was surprised at how we performed. That was the best I'd seen United play in a long time. And it was enjoyable to watch. It was exactly what I'd hope. On the front foot, we were pressing, making you make mistakes, turn over the ball, putting the ball in the box. We were taking shots. We were running. Ahmad was running, causing problems. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And I would agree that the second goal, well, the goal actually that you guys scored, Shaw, I have to blame Shaw there. That's like he's been knocked off the ball too easy. But fair play to Kluivert, he was strong. And then I think what you saw there was a bit of an experience from Heaven and Euro in centre defence. I think United are definitely missing the more experienced of De Ligt. De Ligt's been really good for us all season, and actually Harry Maguire as well. So I think that was an experience there, but also I think that comes from a bit of confusion because this is the first time they would be playing forward at the back this season. So if you watch what happens whenever the I think it was Heaven, it was Euro, I think it was, whenever he sees that Shaw's lost the ball and Semenya's running at them, he actually is in a good position and he moves more into the centre and he just kind of leaves the channel open and you see Mason Mount screaming at him, come across. And at that split second, it's too late, you know, and it's a good finish. And, you know, but I think that's a bit of youth and also a bit of chopping and changing systems and things. And like I said, I was very happy with the 4-4. I'd rather have 4 at the back. I don't think there's many United fans like this 3 at the back. Again, we were lucky then to... I didn't think Bournemouth at that stage were really deserving of it. You know, I thought United were so on top. I was very pleased to go in at half-time. I would agree, though, that goal was very much like a Nana. I saw someone actually asking a question there about let me see, where was it? About something about do we think our goalie is better than Onana? 100 times, 100,000 times. And the thing about him is that there's nothing fancy about him. He actually has this amazing ability that he can catch a ball and he can stop a ball and he can kick a ball. And, you know, honestly, I'm saying that kind of jokingly, but you will have seen how bad Onana was, but Onana was terrible. Like, and just Le Mans in nets, there's just such a confidence. He's only in it, you know, I don't know what he's played, maybe 6 games or something for us. But straight away, there was just a confidence about him that you just don't like. Yeah, I mean, I think he could have done better. It's a good free kick. It's hard to blame him, to be honest. He made a couple of saves. He stopped you guys winning it. He made a couple of game savers, and so I'm very happy with him. And again, he's young, and but yeah, I mean, I actually played. I was playing EA or FIFA. I call it FIFA still the other night, and it was last year's game, and I was playing against my brother, and actually Onana was playing in nets, and I was playing against United, and he was making the same mistakes in the game that he made last season. I was like, this is so realistic. I was like, remember what it was like when we had him in nets? Like, so yeah, that was the first half. I don't know. And then the second half, it was just madness. I thought Bournemouth took their goals really, really well. I think no complaints really about that. I think, Craig, you were talking last night about
Yes.
was it soft, the free kick? Yeah, I saw it back there today. I would have, if that was on the United player, I would say it was a very soft that led to the Fernandez goal. But at the same time, I also think the free kick that you guys got was soft, but I could see why the referee gave it. So it kind of balances out. But yeah, I thought I thought Bournemouth just split us open far too easily in the second half. You guys looked like you were more likely going to win. Like I said, Lemons saved, I think it was 2 times that kept us in it. And you were fair play. You were worth getting the point, absolutely. And I think if I was a Bournemouth fan, I'd be very happy with the performance. To go to Old Trafford, I wouldn't say you played particularly great, but you changed something at half time. And either you changed something at half time or our changed something, but something changed at half time. You guys took advantage of it and you showed character to come back as well. After at away at Old Trafford, after being ahead and then going behind again, you showed character to get back in it. So I think, yeah, neutral, great game to watch. Bournemouth, probably, I'd say Bournemouth fans are happy with the result more than less. I'm not happy with it. I set a task, I just don't know what the problem with United is, because I said about 4 games ago, I said that the 5 games up to Christmas, I needed to see United get at least 9 points out of the 15, based on the games we had. And we're going in against Aston Villa now with 8. And the idea of it was I would continue supporting Amron if he got to 9 points. One of the guys in the thing I said, well, what if they don't get a point on Sunday? You're going to be Amron out, and I'm like, to be honest with you, I don't even think that it's going to fix anything. I don't like chopping and changing managers, but at the same time, it's a mentality thing. But I just think the club's rotten to the core, right from the top, and until the Glazers are gone, we're going to chop and change. We're going to be in this. We just really need to get we just need to get rid of those Americans. Sir Jim can go as well.
Stephen, just want to throw a question actually out here, because what do you think the main issue is with regards to consistency at Manchester United? And, we could probably relate this to Bournemouth, because I watched your game against Everton. Everton were down to 10 men, their own doing, absolutely ridiculous, to be perfectly honest. But they still won 1-0 at Old Trafford. We played Everton recently. We were absolutely terrible. To be honest, they beat us 1-0 as well. And it feels like yesterday, what we saw from Manchester United and what I saw was a completely different, mentality, different style, different feeling about that Manchester United team. But you don't always see that. Well, what do you think is stopping that consistency of that sort of performance week in, week out?
I wish I knew. And I don't think any United fan knows that. I think there's a mentality problem though, because even today, it just always seems there's United are always scoring own goals, in the sense today, that game last night, 4-4, everybody's kind of saying, oh, it's a good game. The neutrals are all saying it, and then the story comes out from Bruno Fernandes today. Talking about how United were trying to sell them in the summer, and how he felt hurt by that, and how he cares so much about the club, and he sees other players in the club who are staying there who don't seem to care as much. And I'm like, if you're the captain of this team and you're saying that there's players around you that don't care about playing for this club, then why the fuck aren't you calling them out? Pardon my language, but why aren't you calling them out?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just sorry for cursing, but I just get passionate about it.
It's fine, no problem at all. Mate, no
I'm fed up of it. It's you'll never, like I said in the pre-show, you'll never know what you're going to get. Sometimes there's talented players. There's no doubt about it. But they just turn up when they want. And listen, you hear some of the stories coming out now about how Paul Scholes said in a podcast there a couple last week, how he doesn't know anyone in the club anymore because they've sacked that many people. And recently, when a friend asked him to get tickets, he had to go to a tout because this Paul Scholes, and he said that on the podcast last week. He says, "I don't know anyone in the club. I had to go to get a tout to get me tickets for my friend to go." And like, there's something drastically wrong in the club when a legend like that.
Yeah,
It was only a couple of years ago. He was helping Giggsy temporary charge the team. So yeah, Amarin. I don't think Amarin's the problem. I don't think he's the solution. I would, and I just think that, it's just not. I'm just fed up. I'm just fed up of being average. I'm fed up of being accepting standards dropping here in the United. Like Ahmad saying last night, we're disappointed at the win, but a draw is also good. It's not. Do you know what I mean? You're playing for Manchester United. You're playing at home. You're playing against Bournemouth, who are way behind you, who aren't playing well. It's not good enough. And you then take the lead and you go and so I don't know. It's but there's always a bit of hope. But the hope was there for the first 25 minutes, 30 minutes of that game. But it's the hope that kills you,
like we were saying last night as well, Stephen, and I just want to bring it up, and please everybody do go and watch the Irish Red Devils podcast afterwards, because it was a great conversation I had with you guys on there. When you've got a club like Manchester United or like Spurs or a team like that, it is going to take so much more because the expectation is so much higher to turn that club around. Manchester United probably more so because you have the history with Sir Alex Ferguson. And, like I did say last night, I don't think you'll ever get that version back. You might win the title again, but it'll never be that version because that was something special.
Fergie's gone a decade ago.
Yeah.
It's not like he just left. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's more than a decade since he left. Like, it's not, and I think Ronaldo exposed to the public, I think for the first time, how he couldn't believe when he came back to the club how everything was the same. The club didn't, and that comes down to how the club's being run, and it's Manchester United. If I got any of my tops here, I don't have my tops here, but essentially, one of the biggest things is the jersey. 1 second here. So our logo now, it says Manchester United. It used to say Manchester United Football Club. It's a business. Since the Glazers took over, it became a business, and the rot has set in. And I really fear for where it's going. But again, there's enough talent there, and if Sir Jim rang me now and says, "What do you want to do for the rest of the season, Stevie?" I'd say to him, "I don't want to lose players like Kobe Mainoo because he doesn't suit this manager's system. This manager's not going to be here long term. He might be a year, whatever, but I'd like to give someone like Kobe Mainoo a chance in the team. I'd like to see Casemiro is doing well. It's World Cup year, but he's not the future of this club. He's going to be gone next year.
Yeah,
if they let Mainoo go, but then you see stupid stuff like his stepbrother or half brother. Do you see what he was? See that stuff that annoys me. It's just I'm not getting to play. Okay, send family members out to say I'm in prison. Free Kobe Mainoo. Did you see that T-shirt on the news today?
Yeah.
And it's like
garbage.
We had it with Sancho, and we had it with Rashford. It was like whenever they're tweeting, freedom and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, because you're professional footballers at one of the biggest clubs in the world, making fortunes, and you're like, "Oh, I haven't started for 2 months, and I'm hard." Amarin said the other day, like, Mainoo had his chance last year, and he did have his chance last year, and he didn't play well. But at the same time, if I could say to Sir Jim, if he said to me, what do you want to do? I would say, listen, if you can get, this won't happen, right? This is a Man United fan in dreamland. You might say cuckoo land from what I'm going to say, but I would bring in Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane to the end of the season.
There you are.
Right?
That's not bad.
I would bring in, I would love that, right? Martin O'Neill as the manager, Roy Keane as his assistant, and clear out the people there who are there would be no hiding places, you know, and then plan for your, you know, that's only a short-term fix, but you know, you can see that's what I would do. It's not going to happen, but that's what I would do. Listen, we're going to continue on with what we are. The thing about Amron is he has a very strict way of playing. United need to back him completely. There's no point bringing in a manager who plays completely different style of football to anything United have ever played and not really back him. It's stupid, you know. And he's got players playing positions that they're not their best. Fernandes is performing pretty well, but he's not in his right position.
No.
And you know, so
I agree. Yeah.
But I know that I'm very Man United said, but I'm just so fed up with it, like, you know. But I'll still watch the game on Sunday because that's the joy, the hope that something.
How do you think they're going to do?
God knows. I predicted last night. The first time we started our podcast 2 months ago, and just for a bit of crack, really, it was more for therapy, you know, because me and my brothers and stuff, we'd get together, we'd talk about United, and I'd be like, let's talk to other people and see if we can, you know, share the pain together. Like the first one we did was actually the night after the Liverpool game, so it was actually a good time to start. And then we went on a run. So yeah, this is the first time I predicted a loss since we started the podcast. I think I said a 3-1 or 2-1 or even 2-0 actually. I don't know. So, but Aston Villa win. But again, with this United team, they could go out there and they could get a clean sheet. But that was an stat I saw today. United. I think it was something like managers who have 40 games or more in the Premier League for the least amount of clean sheets. And let me just bring it up here. So where is it here? This is a big issue actually. These clean sheets. So Amron is 7th worst clean sheet ratio of any Premier League manager who has managed at least 40 games. And there's 8 teams in that. 5 of them are no longer in the Premier League. So there's only, you know, and he's in company of John Gorman, Joe Royal, Gary O'Neill, Steve Keane, Ozzy Ardiles, Owen Coyle, and Gary Megson. So he's in there with 43 games and only 6 clean sheets. 14%. That says a lot. We were cut through like butter by Bournemouth yesterday.
So, are you still okay with us for a couple of minutes, Stephen, or have you got to shoot?
Well, as long as my wife doesn't see me, but I do have to shoot. But I'll squeeze it in the next couple of minutes.
Very quickly, then, just before you go, there's a question in the chat. If you can just give your point of view on this one. It's from Paul in Oz, who says, "Can't believe Shaw is still in Man United's team. Could Steve tell us why he's still playing at left back and his contract running down?" Any views on that?
Yeah. Well, Shaw had a long contract. I think he had like I could be wrong, but I think it was like a 7-year contract or something he signed. So he's been there, you know, for so long. And in fairness, this season is the first time he's got a stretch of playing consistently. He's been injured so much every year. He come back, he play a game or two, and then that's him away for 6 months. He's played really consistently this season. I actually think he's playing pretty well in general. But yeah, again, he's on a crew who got a big contract long term and didn't want to leave. And why would you? You know, when you're on something good. But yeah, I think again, there's a lot of players there at the club who should have been gone a long time ago. But he's not the worst. He's not the worst. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thanks for that. Yeah, well, we'll let you go, Stephen. Thank you for joining us and giving us your views. And we're going to have a look a bit more into the Bournemouth side of things now. But it's been a pleasure to have you on. And I'm sure next time the fixture comes around, I'm sure we'll have you on the channel again.
Yeah, likewise, guys. Appreciate you coming on my show and really enjoying getting into this and chatting to other fans. It's interesting and yeah, listen, all the best the rest of the season. Hopefully I think we probably will be competing with you for places, judging by how things are going now. But yeah, we'll definitely catch up. So I appreciate the invite as well.
Not
Yeah.
a problem at all. Our pleasure.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
All the best.
Have a good night.
Cheers,
All right.
Stephen.
Thanks,
Take care,
mate.
mate.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Steve.
Well, a few technical issues and that, and it's thrown all the plans out the window. But we'll get back on to, well, obviously we've got Manny with us as well.
Hello,
Manny,
Manny. You all right?
great
Hi,
to see
Manny.
you.
Yes, gentlemen, it's been a long time, and I was actually texting with Craig back and forth during the match. You know, regrettably, I sort of didn't really see much of the first half. I was trying to follow using the BBC text service, and you guys know that when it comes to United versus Bournemouth, I'm always going to root for the Cherries. Can't stand Manchester United, but I do love the Cherries as well. And after Semenyo equalised, I saw the highlight of that goal and I told myself, you know, this could very well be a game worth watching. And because it's so late in my neck of the woods, I, you know, ended up watching the entirety of the second half, but it was worth it. It was wonderful. And I think it's fair to say, if I were at the stadium, I'd probably be joining the Bournemouth fans and singing, "Can we play you every week over here?" Seriously, 3 consecutive seasons, 10 goals, 2 wins and a draw. They don't like playing you on their home turf, it has to be said. And I've also got to say right now that for all of the defensive struggles that Bournemouth have been having this season, it hasn't been easy trying to replace Hudson, Zabani, and Kirkes and a few others. But I think it's fair to say that the new ones who've come in, the likes of Diakite and Trafford have, you know, for the most part done pretty well. I think maybe they still have a few issues, and there were some defensive frailties for United's goals. But, you know, it's like the more they start playing together, the more they probably have that belief. And I'd like to think that this result will help, you know, kickstart the rest of the season. Because I was saying to Craig, that 4-0 loss at Aston Villa probably knocked the stuffing out of you. I think it knocked the didn't just knock out the seeds, it knocked out the pulp in entirety, I would say.
Yeah.
But attacking wise, you know, Marcus Tavernier, Evan Nilsson, Justin Kluivert, you know, you've got the Holy Trinity there, I have to say, when it comes to the attack. And it was just amazing how open United's defence was. You'd think that with 3 at the back and 4 in the line just in front of the defence, it would be a little bit solid. But, you know, as Stephen was saying before he left, you just cut through them like a hot knife through butter in that second half. And, yeah, there were... I mean, obviously, the less said about Petrovic's error, the better. I think the comparisons with Onana pretty much summed it all up. But the spirit that you guys show, oh, boy. This is why, for many neutrals, you are one of their favourite teams. And maybe, you know, this will give you that belief you need to complete December, have a good Christmas, and then just come out firing again in the new year. But one thing which I would say that Iraola needs to do is really start tightening up that defence. And if that means perhaps using someone like a sweeper who could, you know, mop up behind the back 4, then so be it. Because with the 4-2-3-1 you're playing, I think it's fair to say that, you know, Scott and Adams or Cook or whoever else is in that pivot, they've got a bit of a job to do, having to worry about defensive duties, and it's not really, it's not fun, I can say. It's not fun.
I was having a look at some stats as well, you know, this morning, and, you know, from, you know, what Manchester United had on target, Manchester United had over 25 shots on our goal. We only had, you know, 12 shots, and, you know, we scored 4 from that. So, you know, our attacking prowess and what we did in front of goal, considering some of those on target were from quite a wide range as well. Is a real positive. I don't see that as negative. A third of ours went in. Whereas Manchester United, had a lot more shots, and it was really two mistakes that were probably the difference. Petrovic is, and we've said this before, haven't we? Can I just touch upon, firstly the first goal, which was firstly bad defensive work, but Petrovic could have come and collected that. He could have got that clear. The second goal, he was beaten at his near post again, like he was against West Ham. If you remember, Matt, we picked that out straight away. How he always seems to be getting beat at that near post. He did that against Sunderland as well, didn't he?
Yeah. Now that you're on that, obviously we're getting a bit of structure back now, and this has kind of brought me back to where we were at. So I'm glad you brought up the Petrovic. The second one for me is the one that's the real clanger, I think.
Yes, agree.
Because at the end of the day, Casemiro should not have been allowed to score from that kind of position, really. And, from a goalkeeper's perspective, the goalkeeper's a role that I don't like to criticise much, because it's the easiest role to criticise on a football pitch, I think, in my personal opinion. But when you watch that goal back again and again, I've watched it a couple of times this evening, it doesn't get any better. It looks worse than when I see it, to be honest. So for me, out of the two, yes, the first one is questionable. The second one is an absolute clanger for me. Malcolm, what was your opinion on that Petrovic's second?
Yeah, okay. You have to, before Casemiro got his head to that.
Yeah.
All right. Diakite was having a wrestling match with him, and Casemiro pulled away, and Diakite didn't go with him.
Yeah.
So he ended up having a free header. All right. So the fact that Petrovic, did what he did, I'm not going to say, how clumsy or whatever. It should never have been got to that position in the first place. Now, if Diakite had simply stuck to his man, not wrestling, but following him, and at least jumped for the ball at the same time, then the outcome could have been totally different. So the problems were there before the ball came.
Yeah, but then Malcolm, don't you think your goalkeeper should be stopping that header?
Absolutely.
Regardless to what's happened, that's why you've got a goalkeeper. You can't always rely on defenders. He
headed it down, so it's going to bounce back up at him. So,
he's flat.
It wasn't the most powerful header, was it?
No.
So,
To be honest, that sort of mistake you'd see at Branksome Rec. That's the sort of mistake you'd see at Branksome Rec on a Sunday morning. Not in a Premier League football match. He knows where his weakness is. I'm sure that Neil Moss has been working on this as well. That that near post is something that is an Achilles heel. I agree with you, Malcolm, with regards to Diakite. He should have followed his man, without a shadow of a doubt. But Petrovic has got a lot of credit in the bank from where he's been and what he's done in the past. And I know, from seeing what he's done in the past as well, I know he can make those saves. Why is he not, though? Why is he not? Is he communicating well?
No, it's simply because he's a goalkeeper. And goalkeepers do make mistakes. And as Matt said, when you do make mistakes as a goalie, it gets highlighted.
Yeah,
there's no hiding place, is there?
No, there isn't. There isn't. Totally agree with that. We're going to move on to the second half because there's some more talking points. Obviously, the show's running on a bit longer than what we've anticipated tonight. We haven't even covered the second half yet. Manny, what did you think of the second half from a Bournemouth perspective? Obviously, it was disappointing to concede that second goal right on the stroke of half time. But Bournemouth come out with a bit of intensity and showed United what we're capable of. So what was your initial thoughts of that second half as a whole?
Oh, absolutely, Matthew. I was sort of saying that the second half was pretty much, the reward for the spirit that you showed. I think it's fair to say that Andoni gave the boys an absolute kick up the rear end and told them to be a little bit braver. But it was just amazing how aggressive they were. And then that's the thing about a team like Manchester United. When you have two teams that just are so defensively open, that little bit of aggression will pretty much be the difference between, you getting something out of the game and you getting nothing. And Bournemouth just made it clear that they were not going to, hold back. And again, how could I forget about Semenyo? Obviously, he's also very much a big part of that. And I do hope and pray for your sake that he doesn't go anywhere in January, because he is going to be pivotal to your lot's chances of getting something from this season. But Evan Nilsson, I think you got him last season as a replacement for Solanke, who, of course, went on to become a European champion with Tottenham Hotspur. Fat lot of good that's done him. But Evan Nilsson's been terrific. And it's just the electric pace that Evan Nilsson has. He's not very tall, but he is quick. And that really unsettles the best of defenders. How he just ran straight through, literally, leaving the likes of Dallow in his wake, nursing a bit of a bloodied nose or mouth or whatever, and just slotting it past Lamans. I mean, that was just amazing. And I think it's fair to say as well that quick start helped you banish the memories of the first half and gave you all the platform on which to, just kick. And again, Tavernier showing just how pivotal he is. Kluivert also whipping in some crosses. Semenyo also showing some great ball control. Attacking wise, there's no reason why you can't continue to score more goals and why one of the guys in the team can't challenge for the golden boot, I would say. It's just that defensively, and you were talking about the Petrovic goal, again, agreed that the goalkeeper deserves some blame, but Malcolm's also got it spot on when he says that there had to be someone marking Casemiro at the far post. And if you take a look at a lot of these games, if you are caught out the far post with someone not being marked and getting a free header, then, it does fall on the goalkeeper, but the defense also has to take its share of the blame. It's you don't watch the ball, you watch the player, and you stick to your player like glue. If you lose your man, then, you're asking for trouble. And it was sort of a continuation, really, where I think it was for the fourth goal that United scored, where Trafford didn't really... I mean, he made a hash of the clearance, really, which led to the ball coming to Cunha's feet. And, Petrovic was never going to save that. And then Craig and I agreed that United's third goal should never have been awarded. It was daylight robbery. How can you give a free kick for a ball hitting poor old Smithy on more or less his upper arm or his shoulder? And he didn't even make it. It was his shoulder. So you can't give that a handball. That was daylight robbery. And I think, and even Stephen was charitable enough to say that had that been given against United, he would have been fit to be tied. So Craig was understandably steaming, and I also wasn't very happy with that. And then for Bruno to score that was wonderful. I think in a nutshell, again, as I've said, something has to be done technically over the Christmas and New Year period with regard to, shoring up that defense. And if that means maybe having to start playing five at the back again, or having a sweeper behind the defense just in front of the goalkeeper, like what they used to do back in the day. Mm-hmm. The Germans, I think, with Beckenbauer and Lothar Matthäus.
Libero.
Yeah. But attacking-wise, just be aggressive, keep scoring goals. And even in that loss to Villa, you actually had villains in a great deal of trouble on a few occasions. And Martinez had to pull off some really good saves, including from the Semenyo penalty and also from I think it was the Alex Scott shot that took a wicked deflection and would have sailed over him into the net, but he tipped it over. 6'5", used the height to an advantage. Just shore up the defense, boys. That's all I can say, really, more than anything else. Just shore up that defense of yours. Seriously.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a totally fair point, that, Manny. I think that's, an area to work on. But then again, I thought Snessi did stand out for us last night. There was some excellent tackles he put in.
Yeah.
But yeah, your point there is spot on, Manny. Let's just cover off a couple more points from the second half, Malcolm and Craig. Your opinions on Tavernier's performance in that second half? I thought his performance was a lot stronger than the first half.
It's just like chalk and cheese. It was.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? The first
Yeah.
half, I thought he looked like he was struggling a bit. I don't know if you two agree with that. But the second half, I thought he was just a completely different player and looked a bit like his old self again.
Yeah.
But what was your thoughts, guys, on those initial two players? Let's go with Tav and Evan Nilsson.
I'll pass it over to Malcolm, but I'll just quickly say, I think it was 20 minutes really that Tavernier was poor for in the first half. I think he really picked up after that point. But Malcolm, I'll pass it over to you. You carry on.
Yeah, well, I can't disagree with that. I might have even given him a few minutes longer. Yeah, maybe half an hour. I mean, there was a lot of balls that he misplaced. He was getting knocked off the ball quite easy. He seems a bit frustrated actually in the sort of first 15 to 20 minutes. You watch his body language. He just didn't seem to get going. And they were picking him off in the midfield there, and they were in a field day, to be honest with you. Evan Nilsson, yeah, I mean he does what he does. He's a workhorse. He doesn't have to stay in the centre. He'll go left, right, whatever, drop back, help out defensively as well. So far back as possible. And in the second half, I mean, they both shone. They really did. I mean, absolutely super elated forever. I totally disagree with Sean in the chat where he says about Ever's strike. It was a bit of a scuff, but I mean, I don't believe that at all. Wonderful.
Beautiful finish.
Yeah, I mean, it was all the goals in the second half, to be honest with you, they were all top draw finishes, all of them. And I think the way they actually got through the centre, and I mean, Ever was between the two central defenders, and he just had his one touch that he needed and straight. I mean, the keeper didn't have a chance, it was perfectly placed. And I was just so thrilled for him. You could actually see, obviously after he went and celebrated, how happy he was. And I mean, Matt's actually, we had a chat about this beforehand, that will kickstart his season again.
Yeah.
That goal. I mean, I think obviously, strikers, they always get looked at for the goals that they score. It's not as though he hasn't had that many opportunities. He's been, brilliantly tackled on numerous occasions. He's had penalties against him as well. So, they all count. I mean, if you wanted to count them as goals or an assist, please do. So, I mean, his work rate is second to none. And I was absolutely astounded at the performance of Tavernier in the second half. He was like a new kid. It certainly wasn't the same player from the first half. And I know there's an awful lot of Tav bashing goes on around the different fan channels and everything, fan bases. It's not the sort of thing to do. You got to support your own players, and when they're going through a tough time, get behind them. I found that incredible the other game. Where somebody had to go at him at one of the home games, wasn't it? And he reacted, and I just think that was just so poor from the fans. That try getting behind him, give him some support, and let him know you're there. To help him along. And give him the shove in the positive direction. But no, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. What a free kick. So we've scored four different goal scorers. What more can you ask for?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just two more points I want to touch on before we wrap up. Firstly, Krupi's goal before we wrap up. I think the celebration was pretty special.
Yeah.
I don't think I could do that if I tried. But I think obviously the whole Evan Nilsson Krupi thing, I know there's a lot of debate about it. Even I questioned in the Dean Court Social recently, how long can we go on with Evan Nilsson, even though he's doing everything right on the pitch? How long can we go on without him scoring? And like myself and Malcolm was saying before we come on air, in my opinion, I see this goal against United similar to the goal against Southampton last year, where he just needed that bit of luck in front of goal. And I think now he's going to kick on and get some more goals for us. Krupi, I think, again, another player that excites me. I really enjoy watching. But I think out of the two players, if one's going to give you more impact from the bench, for me, it's Krupi.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you guys would agree with that, Craig.
Totally agree.
I'll be honest, I've got a little bit of a different theory about this because I really like Krupi. Krupi can run for England or France. In his case, he's a quality player. He's got a real eye for a goal. Evan Nilsson, comes for a lot of stick from some fan of the fan base, and I agree with Malcolm. That the criticism that he gets is unwarranted. But what I would actually do is play Evan Nilsson just behind Krupi, because Evan Nilsson does all the battling. He does all the, hard work. Whereas Krupi is more of a finisher. He's somebody who's got that eye for a goal, gets himself into a good position, puts it in the back of the net. Whereas Evan Nilsson does all the hard work and sometimes isn't in the right position to make it count, or is a little bit delayed, or isn't. I guess when you're a striker like that as well, and you're battling most of the game, alongside defenders, and he does put himself about, Evan Nilsson. When he gets in that position where he should put it in the back of the net, maybe sometimes he's a little bit unprepared. So if we took that pressure off Evan Nilsson, maybe we moved him back into position just behind Krupi, he could still get himself goals. He will still get himself goals, but he can do all that hard work and then get it up to Krupi, because he's a good passer of the ball. Get it up to Krupi.
Sorry, Craig, but that would unbalance it, wouldn't it, slightly?
I see coming from
exactly.
When you compare the players we got there now.
I think the other thing as well, look at it from the player's perspective as well. Would Evan Nilsson want to play in behind the front man when he sees himself as the front man?
Yeah, but you've got to think as well is that I think Evan Nilsson's biggest strength is not always scoring the goals. And to be honest, some strikers need to appreciate that they've got better strengths in creating things and being a nuisance.
I like where you're going with this, Craig. I'm sorry to cut in. I like where you're going with this. The problem is, what you're saying is that you probably would see Evan Nilsson as more of a 10 in the mold of a Dennis Bergkamp, who would score some occasional goals, some absolute beauties, but would be more of a playmaker, while Krupi would be the target man. But I think Malcolm also said it perfectly when he said that in your current formation of 4-2-3-1, where would you play Evan Nilsson in that case? Would you sort of have him do a Daniel Marlin going on the wing, or try and have him, stick in the 10? Because, you've got two players in Kluivert and Tavernier who, can easily fill that 10 spot well. Kluivert also does well on the wings. The only way you could have Evan Nilsson and Krupi playing would be to change the formation to have two up front. It could be a 4-4-2 or a 5-3-2, 3-5-2 or what have you. But then how actually would you be able to make that work? And would the players you have in those midfield attacking roles you have right now, would they be happy? Maybe you could possibly start Krupi as the number 9.
Yeah.
And bring Evan Nilsson off the bench with something to prove. Evan Nilsson has some speed as well. Let's not forget he can run through. Yeah. So why not bring Evan Nilsson on as a super sub? If you take a look at what Aston Villa used to do with Ollie Watkins, for instance, Watkins is normally at his best when he has competition. So if he has another striker, starting a few games, scoring some goals and putting pressure on him, he responds accordingly. So, and although obviously with that level of competition, it can be difficult to try to get a consistent run of games. In Watkins's case, it brought out the best in him. And of course, back when they were both at the club, Moussa Diaby and Leon Bailey used to do exactly the same thing on the right wing. So I would start with Krupi and bring Evan Nielsen off the bench and then see how that works. And with the FA Cup coming up, you also have room to try to experiment with the other way around, and you can change things as you see fit. I'm not really in favour of changing the formation just so that you can play Evan Nielsen and Krupi in the same lineup. And I'm sorry for having to cut in on you, but I really hope you can understand.
No, it's a good point. No,
very, very good point.
I think that's a debate that's going to carry on and on throughout the season. I think.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Just to jump back in on that as well.
Very quickly, because we'll get to the last bit if we can, so we can wrap up, Craig.
With regards to our midfield, I think our midfield is our key strength. So, at the end of the day, we wouldn't want to, to play them both up front together. We wouldn't want to compromise that midfield. So it could end up being a 4-4-2 formation. And let's be honest, in this day and age, like Eamon Holmes said to me, those days are long gone. The game's more technical now. How many teams do you see playing a traditional 4-4-2? I don't think you're seeing one in the top 4 divisions, to be honest.
No, there are a few. Unai Emery does every now and then with Aston Villa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, true.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Last point to touch on before we wrap up is the clash between Manchester United's Darlow and Semenyo. Obviously got a little bit tasty. Obviously, there's been some opinions in the chat. I do apologise to the chat. There's been so much going on tonight and we've run over. We've had technical hitches and all sorts tonight, so I haven't been able to get through all the chat. But we do appreciate all your comments, and I can see everyone's having a fairly decent conversation in there amongst yourselves. So, thank you as always for commenting. But I know there's a bit in the chat about the Semenyo and the Darlow clash there. What was, just very quickly, off each of you guys, if I could just have your opinion on it. Should Semenyo have been sent off for grabbing the throat? Now, let's start with, I'm going to go with the neutral first. Manny, what was your opinion on that, please?
Semenyo was a very, very lucky lad. I'm sorry to say that.
I agree.
Don't get me wrong. The foul by Darlow on Semenyo was awful, and I did see that. And, and Lord only knows what would have happened if Smithy hadn't have intervened, because if Smithy hadn't have come in between the two, Lord only knows what would have happened. It's very easy to say that, Semenyo only barely brushed his, neck and didn't really go for the central part. And of course, I've seen, my own former captain, Granit Xhaka, do something that stupid when we played Burnley at home in 2020, 2021, and he got sent off and we lost 1-0. You've got to be able to control your emotions. And the thing with Semenyo is he is exceptionally passionate. But, you see you see what happened with, I think it was it Ghana Gay, I think, who got sent off for Everton for trying to, slap his own teammate. I mean, that was absolutely ridiculous. It really was. And, if anything, players have also got to be smart enough to know that you just can't do some stuff like that. You really just can't. You've got to make sure that they are debriefed on the rules. Yes, you may have had a bad foul, and yes, you can possibly, you're perfectly entitled to go towards them and shout all sorts of obscenities and profanities and, literally read them the riot act, but physical contact is simply uncalled for. I thought the referee handled it quite well by making sure that they only got some yellows each because, they had to be punished, and I'm sure Dermot Gallagher would have done the same thing. If you know, of course.
Yeah.
But Semenyo really has to control himself. But Darlow is no saint, no chance. And I think even the United fans in the chat will agree that Darlow is certainly no saint or squeaky clean squaddy. Far from it. But I'm just glad that all that ended well.
Cool. Craig, before we give Malcolm the final word on this one, over to you.
Yeah, I know everybody knows I'm Antoine Semenyo's #1 fan, but I am
No,
going to
you're
be
not.
completely honest. I am going to be completely honest. He's a lucky boy. He was completely unnecessary. I completely agree with Manny. The foul was bad. It wasn't good
It was.
from Dallo. But at the end of the day, you can't run up and you cannot reach for another player's throat. Semenyo, to his credit, did look like he pulled himself away and had that moment which made him think, no, this is stupid. But still, and this is where the rules and the interpretation of rules is going to be very different. Like Manny's brought up that Everton situation, which was absolutely ridiculous. Other referees would have sent off Semenyo for that, and I think they'd be well within their rights to do so. If Antoine is watching this channel, which I'm guessing he probably isn't, but if Andoni is watching it as well, don't do that again. It's just a moment of madness, and luckily he's got away with it this time, but next time he might not be so lucky.
Yeah, I'm sure he's taken that all on board, Craig. Malcolm.
Yeah, well, I'd take my hat off to the ref. He obviously saw the whole incident. So from, when it initially happened and to what went after, I think he'd probably already made his mind up. Bearing in mind, he had so many players in his face, didn't he? And obviously, the first one to go in is Fernandes, like he always does, shouting the odds and trying to intimidate the officials all the time. But there were other guys jumping on the bandwagon, and he kept calm. The referee just said, look, just go away. And then he brought the two players back to himself, and others followed. And he said, no, I don't want this. I just want the two players. That he showed that he was in control of the situation, and took a lot of steam out of it. And it would have been very easy for him to just pull out a red card straight away. But he'd assessed everything, seen how the whole game was being played as well. Letter of the law, yeah, you could say it's a red card. But for me, I thought he did the right thing. Both players got a yellow. So now, come on, we got a game of football on here. Let's play it. And thank goodness that happened, because we wouldn't have had the rest of the game that we had.
Yeah.
It would have been, totally different. So in that respect, and obviously with hindsight, it's brilliant. But yeah, super job. Yeah.
I think the referee, like you say there, Malcolm, to be honest, I think he had a pretty good game, all round. I would say, of course, the free kick for Manchester United was very soft. I do, and I've watched this back, I do agree with Stephen, actually. When Tavernier was running forwards and was brought down by Casemiro, the level of contact was very minimal, actually,
Yep.
when it gets slowed down. But we've seen it happen time again. It's happened against us. It's happened for us this time. Tavernier's obviously got himself into a position. The ball's ran away from him a little bit, and he's thought, I don't think I can strike this as cleanly. So he's gone to ground and he's won the free kick. Absolute professional foul from Casemiro. Well within his right to do that. Tavernier got the free kick, and it was a beauty. So overall, apart from the two free kick decisions, which were questionable, of course it's how you interpret the laws. I think the referee, he's one of the better referees that we've seen.
Yeah, Matt, can you just go in the chat here? Oh, sorry,
Yep.
I can do it, can't I? There we go.
Yep.
This one here. Yeah, I mean, he's got a good point, but I mean, the referee. So it was an on-field decision. He gave 2 yellow cards to the 2 offenders, and I'm sure VAR would have had a look at that anyway. And if they left it to the on-field decision from the referee, then so be it.
But Malcolm, we've seen him give them before.
Yeah, I know, but as RD United pointed out here, laws of the game, it's a red, which is right.
Yeah.
But if it's an on-field decision, I think obviously, if he'd have had both hands around his neck, he'd have said, yeah, you're going. There's no way you're going to stay on. He shouldn't have done it. I'm not saying he's right, because he certainly shouldn't have done it. He was a lucky boy.
Yeah.
But I thought the ref did a bloody fine job, and with that free kick you mentioned for Fernandez's goal, I mean, Fernandez was actually in the ref's face screaming for a handball decision. And he actually got it. So, football's football, and you know what you're going to get when you're playing United.
Yeah.
Another reason to despise Bruno Fernandes, and again, Dallo. I don't want to try all Portuguese players with the same brush, but when they need to be, they can be very, very, very slick, for want of a nicer word. And crucially as well, let's not forget that the VAR didn't even bother to intervene, because had they decided to be a little bit, uptight about it, they would have said, because if you remember when Chelsea played Arsenal, Anthony Taylor was only willing to give Moises Caicedo a booking for a challenge on Mikel Merino, which is quite dangerous, studs up.
Where are you all gone?
Sorry, you've got to come to the VAR screen and say, you see for yourself how dangerous it is. You've got to give Moises' marching order, and that's what happened. But this time around, VAR didn't intervene. And so that's an example of how even the VAR people were in concurrence with the referee, that when you analyze everything from the beginning to the end, you got to just, handle it diplomatically. So well done to both the referee and the VAR. VAR has come in for a lot of stick these past 2 seasons, but this time they did well.
Yeah. Well, we're going to wrap it up now. So thank you everybody in the chat. And thank you to my guests this evening. Lovely surprise to see you, Manny. Thank you for coming on. Do come on to more Cherry Slaps if you're about, because your opinion's always great to have on the show as well. Thank you to Craig.
Pleasure.
Cheers, Manny. Thank you to Craig for jumping in last minute without his contact lenses. As Malcolm's internet seemed to have gone down and we weren't sure if Malcolm was coming back. So thank you to you, Malcolm, as always, for being on Cherry Slaps.
My pleasure.
I'm sure Ollie will probably be back for the Burnley reaction, but we'll see. If he isn't, then I shall step in again. But Malcolm,
before you log off,
right,
Thursday evening, 7:00, we'll attempt to do a live Cherry PM. So Ollie and myself, and we'll do a preview of the Burnley game. So that's Thursday, 7 p.m. All right.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You got that?
Yeah, that's fine. Now you threw me off. You've completely thrown me off now. Yeah, you've thrown me. But anyway, again, sorry to all you guys in the chat. Couldn't get to all your comments tonight, but thank you as always for commenting. Just want one word off all 3 of you as we wrap up. How would you describe last night's game in one word?
Wow.
All right, you're done. Craig?
One
word.
Epic. Not epic.
I think would have sufficed. It would have signified that he was speechless there.
Manny, go on. One word. How would you describe it?
Exhilarating.
Cool.
I mean, I wanted you lot to win, but, anytime you get a 4-4 draw, it's box office.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I think you win with the exhilarating, Manny.
What's your one-word answer to your question?
Yeah, your word's done now. Anyway, thank you to everyone for watching. Do tune back into Cherry Slaps on Sunday evening when we will do the Burnley reaction. Don't forget there's going to be a Cherry PM, apparently, so I've just been told. The Dean Court Social will also be out Thursday. Myself and Craig will be recording that very shortly. But until the next one, all that's left to say is up the cherries and good night.
The TalkSport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.
I should be like you, Mel.